What's going on, beautiful people? It is I, your flying locomotive and faster than a speeding bullet, SuperCliff, coming at you live with a brand new video. And for today's majestic and fantastic video, we are getting freaky and spooky with Moon Knight Annual issue number 1. But before we continue with today's thrilling adventure, if you are new to the channel, then smash that like and subscribe button. That way you guys never miss out on anything that's happening on this majestic channel. And because you managed to cross over 1,000 subs, let's raise the bar and go full on Super Saiyan as we try to reach 200 more subs before the end of 2022. So yeah, don't be rude. It's free, folks. It's the price of admission. Don't be a nerd. Show some class. Hit that subscribe button. Thus, without further ado, let's get ferocious with Moon Knight Annual issue number 1. Our story picks up at the Midnight Mission, where we see Moon Knight wearing his midnight attire while casually watering the plants in his office. You know, stuff to do in your office 101. Suddenly, Reese barges in, letting Mark know that some lady with zero manners is screaming and wants to see him. But Mark is pretty cool about it because it's revealed that the woman who's causing this ruckus is none other than Marlene, Mark's ex-wife. Now, Marlene gets straight to the point on why she's here. She wants Mark to kill someone. Now, Mark is like, okay, I'm not an assassin. But Marlene figures that tonight might be an exception because someone has captured her daughter, Deatrice. And that someone is Jack frickin' Russell, aka Werewolf by Night. And it seems that Jack actually wants Moon Knight to come after him since he told Marlene on where Mark can find him. And that's when she tells Mark to either come back with her daughter or die trying, because there's absolutely no way, shape, or hell there's gonna be a third option. Switching over to the abandoned house, we check in with Jack Russell, who has set up his lair, along with 2 fellow werewolves. Now, Jack and these 2 werewolves, they believe in a prophecy. Ooh, a prophecy about how they can kill Khonshu, and somehow it involves Moon Knight's daughter. And the reason why they want to do this is because Khonshu for them represents a slave master. He's basically a symbol created to oppress werewolves. And so if Jack, now being the king of all wolves, he can finally enact the ritual. He can finally kill Khonshu, but he needs Mark to be present in order to do it. And once that happens, once they kill Khonshu, Jack and the others' curse will be lifted. Picking back up with Moon Knight, we see that our hero is paying a visit to Dr. Badir, aka Hunter's Moon, because Moon Knight right now is also of the belief that Jack kidnapped his daughter in order to kill Khonshu, to fulfill the prophecy. Yet at the same time, Mark is unsure if Khonshu is actually killable. And so that's why he's chatting it up with Badir, because Badir is kind of a nerd. He gives a shit about Khonshu and all the rules that come with being a fist. Badir is basically team Khonshu. And that's when Badir confirms this. For you see, back in the day, previous fists have translated the Darkhold. You know that magical book that we saw in Doctor Strange? Yeah, that one? Well, in it, there was a prophecy about how a weapon might be forged by the king of all wolves to kill the Egyptian god of the moon, but only by anointing the blood of the fist of Khonshu with the cursed blood of the fist's offspring on the night of a planetary alignment, which just so happens to be tonight. Now, Badir finds this prophecy to be somewhat contradicting, since by the dialects of Khonshu, a fist is a weapon that cannot sire or birth a child. It's against the code. However, we are talking about Mark Spector. The dude has a kid, and he doesn't really follow the rules. He's a bad boy. And so that's when he lets Badir know that, yeah, you might want to suit up because we've got a situation. We got to save my daughter. Picking back out with Jack Russell, we see him bringing food to Deidris, whilst keeping her locked up in a room, though comfortable and unharmed. And it's here where Deidris stresses the fact that she doesn't think that Jack is a bad man, but let's face it, dude, my dad's going to kill you for kidnapping me. But that's when Jack lets her know that living a life of slavery to a god is a fate worse than death. And so he explains the story of Khonshu, who bounded people who didn't ask or worship for his service, sick with the curse of being a werewolf. And he did this so that those inflicted would, on every full moon, lose control. They would lose control of their minds and bodies and turn into werewolves, so they could become the berserkers in his war of the night, while he had his fists carry the blades of silver to keep them in line. And that's when Jack makes it clear to Deidris that his people will no longer be slaves to her father's god. He needs her to free them. For Jack lets Deidris know that whatever he's doing is foretold through a prophecy in the Darkhold. And in the book, it told him that the role that he would play, as well as the role of her and the role of her father. Now, obviously, Deidris, thinks the whole thing is pretty stupid, but Jack lets her know that actually it's not, because I know of a time back in the day when I used to think that these things were stupid and cliche. And that's when he tells the story of Tyr, a wolf kid from Jack's past, who was part mutant and part god, being the hybrid son of former X-Men Robin Sinclair and the Asgardian wolf god Himra. I definitely did not pronounce that correctly, by the way. And after his parents had to leave him for one reason or another, Jack raised Tyr as his own, until the kid's inevitable death as prophesied by the gods, after which Jack learned his lesson on dodging prophecy. And although he's the king of all wolves, even a king has to bend to fate. And with that, Jack leaves Dytrice alone, telling her to get some rest before her father shows up. Picking back up at the Midnight Mission, we see Rhys trying to assure Marlene that Mr. Knight will bring back her daughter, while at the same time telling Marlene that, you were pretty hard on Mark back there. Now from there, Marlene suspects that Rhys might actually like her ex-husband, because after all, Mark, Steven, and Jake, all three are pretty likable, and she understands that Rhys wants to protect him. But Rhys lets Marlene know that Moon Knight saved her life, along with many others. But that is exactly what Marlene is stressing, for that's exactly what the problem is, because Mark can save everyone but himself and those closest to him. And with Marlene asking if Rhys is in love with her ex-husband, Rhys denies it, saying that, he's hardly her type. And in reality, the only reason why Rhys is still here with him is because after his old superhero pals dropped him, Rhys, she feels that he needs someone in his corner who's not his doctor like Andrea Sternum, or someone who's blindly beholden to him like Soldier. And to which Marlene understands, because a long time ago, she also thought that she could have, been the person for Mark. And although it was exciting at first, when she fell in love with Mark, Steven, and Jake, in time the horrors eventually outpaced the excitement. Shit got pretty old, and Marlene knows from experience, and that Rhys will realize this soon enough. From there we pick up with Moon Knight and Hunter's Moon, where the two have just arrived at the werewolf's lair. And once they park their car in front of the werewolf's lair, Badir argues that it couldn't have been possible for Mark to have a child, and his daughter shouldn't exist, but Mark reminds Badir that he said it to himself. There's something wrong with Mark, and Khonshu didn't build him the same way that he built Badir. Now with the Fist of Khonshu approaching the lair of the king of all wolves, Moon Knight tells Hunter's Moon to get ready, as Badir remarks that he shouldn't have come here, instead should have stopped Mark from fulfilling the prophecy, to which Mark remarks, hey, a lot of marks, that he would have liked to see Badir try. And that's when they jump out of the car as it crashes through the front gates. With Jack Russell sending the wolves to kill Moon Knight, he prepares to end the curse once and for all. However, the wolves find nothing at the crash site, except a bomb strapped with silverware and the car's trunk, that immediately goes off as soon as they open it, stabbing them with countless amounts of silver, severely weakening the wolves. And that's when the Fists of Khonshu reveal themselves. And with Moon Knight and Hunter's Moon quickly subduing Russell's lackeys with Egyptian swords made of silver, they neutralize the threat, but leave the wolves alive just in case they need to ask some questions. Now, it's here where Mark realizes that the wolves actually weren't expecting Hunter's Moon to show up alongside him, and so he proposes to use the element surprise to their advantage, telling Badir to find Dytrice while Mark takes on Russell. However, Badir makes it clear to Mark that his daughter's life is not a priority, because she shouldn't exist, and she represents a threat to their father's life. But Mark lets him know that even if Russell kills him, it wouldn't mean anything if he didn't have his daughter. So he basically tells Badir that if you think of us as brothers, then you should go out there and help your niece. And so with Moon Knight calling out Jack Russell, Hunter's Moon searches the house, whilst Khonshu reaches out to him, reminding his son, his fist, of what he has to do, because Mark's daughter can't be allowed to live since she carries within herself the potential to Khonshu's doom. And although Badir disputes that this isn't just, Khonshu asks if he's questioning his loving father, which Badir denies, because he's a suck-up. And with that, Hunter's Moon comes across a door that doesn't open, finding it odd that there's a locked door in an empty house, unless its purpose was to protect a treasure inside. And so Badir barges his way in, and he scares the crap out of Dytrice, who is expecting her dad. But she quickly realizes that Hunter's Moon is not her father. Elsewhere, Moon Knight squares off against the king of all wolves, letting Russell know that if he wants the blood of the Fist of Khonshu, he can come out and take it, which shocks Jack since, he didn't expect Mark to know the prophecy. However, the werewolf is able to dodge Moon Knight's crescent darts, remarking that he's come a long way since their last encounter, and making it clear that he doesn't personally want to kill Mark. But being the Fist of Khonshu, Mark has to pay for what his god did, and Jack has to free his people from being unwilling slaves of Khonshu. But Mark also lets him know that he also has to protect his daughter, and that means if I have to kill you, bro, if I have to kill Jack Russell, then so be it. And with the two of them fighting to the death, Khonshu orders Hunter's Moon to kill Dytrice. Badir chooses a different path. Rather, he reveals himself to the werewolf whilst holding a blade to Dytrese's throat, and he's threatening to kill her unless Jack reverts back to his human form, revealing the realization that Dytrese is actually the weapon that the King of Wolves needed to forge to kill Khonshu, because by anointing her with her father's blood under the planetary alignment, the transferring of the werewolf curse to her would make it clear that the child is an aberration, and if he kills her, there'll be another, and that Jack won't ever get another chance. However, with Jack turning back into a human, he lets them know that although part of the reason why he needed to turn Dytrese was so that she could end the curse and free his people, which does make him out to be the monster that Khonshu built. Jack also wanted to save Dytrese from Khonshu's wrath, protecting her from being eliminated if the god ever learned the threat that she posed to his existence, as he'll be damned if he lets another kid die because of a prophecy. With Jack holding Mark accountable for letting Badir for threatening his daughter's life to save his own, Moon Knight grabs the blade from Hunter's Moon's hand and puts it into Jack's throat. But Dytrese stops her father. She stops him from slaying the King of Wolves, with Mark disputing that the werewolf was going to kill him and turn her into a wolf, telling her that as long as Russell is alive, her life will always be in danger. But Dytrese gets annoyed by the whole fact that people just want to kill each other. Like, can we stop that? Can we just be friends for a night? No one has to die. These prophecies are stupid. And with the planetary alignment being over, Jack no longer has a reason to kill him or turn her, which is why Khonshu is safe. And really the worst that happened was, Marlene freaking out. Picking up sometime later at the Midnight Mission, we see Dytrese is hanging out with Reese, asking her questions about her vampirism, while also want to see her fangs, because honestly, that's probably what a kid would ask. Meanwhile, Mark asks Marlene if she's taking their daughter back to France, proposing that they can instead stay here so that he can protect them. But Marlene reminds him on why they can't, to which Mark proposes that, maybe I can quit being Moon Knight. I can leave Midnight Mission behind and everything so that, I can be a dad and a good husband. But Marlene knows better. She knows that he can't, because at the end of the day, or at the end of the night, Mark is Moon Knight, and people are going to need him. Thus, it's here where Mark reminds her that him and all of his personalities love her and Dytrese deeply times 3,000. And while Mark sits alone in silence, Reese comes in to tell him that Dytrese is getting anxious about getting some ice cream with her parents, and she asks Mark if he's okay, to which our hero lets her know that he's not, but he promises that he will be. And with that, the group head out to get some delicious ice cream. And that, folks, was the end of Moon Knight Annual issue number 1. And thank you guys for checking out my video, as it truly, truly means the world to me. So yeah, this issue is definitely a love letter to the legacy of Moon Knight. And with Moon Knight's first appearing in a Werewolf by Night issue, it makes sense that in 2022, we would get a Moon Knight Annual like this with Werewolf by Night. And I think it's cool seeing how far these two characters have moved forward throughout the years. With their, having various comic book series and different writers and artists tackling these supernatural characters. And let's not forget the fact that Moon Knight, freaking Moon Knight, had a show on Disney Plus. And Werewolf by Night had an hour-long special. Like, that's crazy to think about. And that's like progress made. So yeah, this comic is basically a love letter. It's acknowledging the past, but it's also moving forward and welcoming the new. And overall, I had a really good time with this. The annual doesn't really need to be read per se. It doesn't technically affect the current story, but the writing is so damn good. So basically, if you're already a fan of Jed MacKay's Moon Knight, then you will definitely like this. At no point you'll be like, wow, I just wasted $5. Like, I can guarantee you that. And hey, it fits the spooky season. And I'll be honest, I hope this annual showcases that, Werewolf by Night is a cool character. And I'd be down to get a miniseries or something from him. Yeah, great stuff. But as always, I'm your majestic sayer over at SuperCliff, and if you guys are new to the channel, then do me a solid by smashing that like and subscribe button, and also the notification bell so that you'll never miss out on an upload, and so you'll always be kept up to date with your favorite top tier comics happening in the comic book world. Now tell me, what are your thoughts and opinions on this issue? Are you guys excited for more Moon Knight? And do you guys want to see more Werewolf by Night? Let me know down in the comment section below. And until the next video, peace. Giggity go.